Tips for new leaders. That's the title of the video tutorial for the day. And let's move on to understand not just the course overview, but what expectation management is for this specific video that we are going to talk about. Moving further to the course overview, we will certainly have an introduction part attached to this particular topic, that is tips for the new leaders, with specific 5 tips being allocated for the new team leaders. I mean, there's a specific word that we are laying across, stating that for the new team leaders, because they are in a transition role. They're in a transition role of just being promoted to a level where they are supposed to influence, lead people. So that's where the whole point comes in terms of suggestion, learning, and reflecting upon what they have learned to go back and apply the leadership skill. Tips to excel in new leadership's role. This is something, an emphasis to talk about what are the basic, factual information that can help you to succeed in the role of being a new team leader or a new leader for that matter. Tips for new leaders in the first 100 days. Well, there have been a lot of emphasis that have been laid for the first 100 days for the role that you join or for the promotion that you take and a specific organization that you join. The first 100 days are very crucial. So I'm going to talk about that. New leaders, improved communication, because unless you have that communication ability in terms of being variant, in terms of being more accepting, more open, you will not be able to showcase that you are promoted and you're enhancing not just your own self but the entire experience of you being a leader with the interaction of your own team members, or probably in the group of team meetings or at an organization level. Moving further with a review and a summary laid out very clearly as to, you just have to go back, apply these practical tips and be great at what you're doing. Course introduction. So what is leadership all about? Well, leadership has its own varied definitions, and let's not get there because every time you have your own perception, and there's a lot of information that has been written in books, journals, articles and internet. Every definition is accepted for leader. So leadership is all about, of course, a skill, a situation, a role and a behavior. So in a day, the segments of your time, the segments of your life where you can act as a leader, where you can behave like a leader, and following which you can transform yourself to something very different. So it's all about behavior, it's all about that skill that you carry and the competency that is highly needed when you are, especially when you're promoted to lead a team, to influence somebody out there. So generally words that get quite closely allocated to the word leader is somebody who's a changer, who is somebody on change management level, who is an example, who leads the entire team as an example, somebody who has a purpose behind it, hence they're promoted as a leader. They carry a legacy, they inspire others, they allow others to do more, they allow others to be leader as well. There is a need for somebody to be at a level of leader. They have a vision of leading and influencing others. They carry the trust, which is most important. Like in any other relationship, leaders carry the trust as well, and leaders have to imbibe with the trust. Moving on with other set of words is the understanding that they hold, the conversation that they hold with the team members, with a group of people, and how do they invest themselves in terms of not allowing others to have an inch of a second thought whether this person can actually be a person whom I can rely on. So I know there's a self-reflection journey that I really want you all to go through here. Think about in the recent past, somebody who has actually helped you achieve a certain task, somebody who has actually helped you to complete a particular challenge that you were stuck at, or somebody who has just helped you for a random cause. So whom do you consider in these instances as a leader, and whom do you look up in your own family members, maybe in the neighborhood, maybe in the set of friends who always helped you to lead by your own self? So this particular instance can actually help you to recognize that one person and allow you to really take all those skills, all those important attributes that the person has been carrying himself, herself, consciously, unconsciously. That's how you can model it and get those attributes to yourself. So leadership as a skill certainly can be honed, and it is always said that it can be modeled and it can be learnt too. Psychologically, a technique has been proven for every aspect of skill gaining, that is modeling. Be it child parent interaction, you can model it to make it effectively. To be a better student at a university or college, you can model the best students. To be a good speaker, you can model it. So when I say model, you basically try and copy, emulate and imitate in literal sense to whomever you look up to. So all those great public speakers, they have emulated, I'm sure, on certain good lines, and they have taken those skill sets to themselves. They applied it and they've succeeded it. Likewise, you and me can certainly pick up and do it too. So go back, think over, who is your favorite leader or whom do you look up to? Slide number 2, 5 tips for new team leaders. Well, this specific slide is helping the new team leaders. Like I said, it's a very new transitional journey from somebody who has been as naive and novice to a level where they reported to a set of supervisors. They were at a ground level to understand what is leadership all about, to make others influence as well. Well, the people who are at a ground level, they are certainly more or less following to be a leader. Let me quote you an example. So you are at an entry level job and you've been there in the system for about 3 years. So there's somebody who newly joins your team and you're assisting the person to come up to that learning curve. You're helping the person to be there in terms of its own achievement of maybe doing independently well by himself or herself. You are a leader, absolutely there. You might not have the designation called leader on, maybe on a paperwork, on a document, but certainly you are leading, you're helping, you're influencing others and allowing the person to do much more. So you might have been in that situation, but however, when it comes to being a team leader, your situation might vary, because it's just not about operationally assisting somebody in the organization, but you're also building the trust, the relationship with the set of people who are reporting to you directly. So that's where the whole challenge comes in, especially when you're in the first transition journey of being an influencer, which is your immediate role of being a supervisor, a team leader. So there are specific 5 tips that have been laid out, and this is like thoroughly researched, and almost every management and leadership guru accepts this. So moving on to understand, the first is with connect with the stakeholders. So stakeholders over here could be somebody like an internal customer and the external customers for you all. So when I say internally, it is like maybe certain departments internally, and also to the people who are reporting to you direct, who are your direct reportees, and your clients too. So it's very important that you connect. When I say connect, it's just not about being positive about the entire conversation experience, but it is all about building that rapport, that specific trust, and allowing them to know that you're committed to the task, allowing them to know that you're there and you have an attitude and an attribute of being an absolute leader. Second important tip is ask questions. Well, it has been always proven, especially when you are in a transitional journey of being a newly promoted employee or newly promoted resource, ask questions. You might sound fool for that particular instance of if in case you have that number of questions, but you might come out really colorful in the entire experience of the journey, where people do look up to you, where people can have accolades for you. Well, there's a Chinese proverb which clearly says that if you do not ask questions for that particular moment, and you let the questions be with you forever, then you are a fool for lifetime. But you ask that number of questions at that right time, at that specific zone, is where you might be termed as a fool for that instance, for that particular experience. But however, this is not going to harm us, this is not going to help us in the further successful journey of being a team leader. So ask questions, explore questions. Well, the recommendation over here is almost all your statements, almost everything that comes out of your mouth should end in a question form. So that's how you can actually grab the attention of the listener and get that right set of information being instilled in your mind by not having any perception, any filters, and also allowing yourself to build that particular trust of knowing that person that you're there, you're grasping all the information, and I'm sure in the journey it's going to be of a quite a successful experience to the person who's listening to you and to the direct reportees who are reporting to you as part of the work journey. Do manual, menial, or other hard work. Well, this is something getting dirty. So you actually have to get yourself dirty by doing that, the minuscule of hard work which is done day in, day out. Well, it's been always proven that each time you join or you get promoted to a new role, it is always imperative that you understand something at a ground level to get a first-hand experience, to also know as to what goes into that particular job role, to better understand it, to better adapt it, and to better handle it in the future. So that's where the whole suggestion comes in, that get your hands dirty. Moving on, figure out what people really want to do. Well, this is something, an aspiration that every leader should place, and this is beautifully performed by people such as Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Sheryl Sandberg. I mean, all those bigger personalities who have been known for their leadership skills, and maybe for few that came in very naturally. Going back to the psychology element, that maybe because of the environment, the childhood that they all carried, and that came in very naturally to them, but few have actually honed it and learned it in the process. So it's very important that we understand this particular point, that is, figure out what people really want. That is, you're not just there to seek work help or just allow that particular employee to completely give you the commitment for the job role only, but also making sure that you're there to assist the person even after when the work role doesn't demand, even allowing the person to make believe that this particular conversation can assist them in the future for futuristic application of the learning, in case they're looking out for something more here. So it's very important that you lay that right foundation, allowing the person to believe that you are not just going to help them for this particular job instance or job role or to complete the task, but you would certainly enhance this person with that specific skill sets, so that the person can go ahead and perform this task by her own self or himself, and learning in the entire journey. Moving further, figure out what people really want. Of course, we just did discuss on, with the last pointer related to this is be decisive. So be decisive to make certain actions, to make certain prerogatives at a priority level. And it is imperative for us to all understand the fact that only your decision making can make you an effective leader. So once again, with this set of 5 tips for the new team leaders, let's move on to read this one by one and understand the reason that they are all interconnected. So I can't just pick up one thing and get the mastery over it and forget or ignore or neglect the others. So once again, the point number 1, connect with the stakeholders. Moving further, ask questions, do manual, menial, or the other hard work which is needed or required. Figure out what people really do. This is very important for all of us. And be decisive. Next slide of the day, tips to excel in new leadership role. Well, highly researched pointer, and they were like lot of pointers that came up, but I had to really settle down with something really more specific and something very, very quick enough handy tips to all of us to go back, apply and achieve that better leadership experience. So the first point is assess the new organization. Well, this is something more or less for a leadership role, somebody who's leading it, somebody who's at a larger level in the organization. So assess the new organization in terms of everything, be it people management ratio, be it the vision of the company, the mission of the company, the stakeholders of the organization. In every aspect is where the assessment has to come in, and that assessment has to be laid out very clearly with specific details, so that you can go back and refer for that information. Then we have to communicate, communicate, and communicate. So there are a lot of information that we keep it to ourselves, and with thought that let me not just overdo it, let me not just go ahead and give out a lot of information right away, because I'm still in the initial stages of building my trust and things of that sort. Well, building trust is one thing, and communicating, allowing yourself to make the others believe, and certainly in the new role started assisting by giving solutions to the concern and the challenges, and enhancing the ability of problem solving for the the set of people who are reporting to you and your employees. The other point is meet with everyone. Well, over here there's a big miss which happens, and this is something not me who's trying to let you know this information, but there's a lot of research and paperwork which has been given out on of course our research, our research platform, which is Google, that it clearly states that people keep it to themselves because they are so busy in terms of soaking and getting observing a lot of information. They do not connect with people, and that's where in the first 30 days, 90 days is where you have not built that relationship with the set of people whom you are working, and you'll be working in future. Your trust might be little there in terms of coming out as either you have a constraint in connecting with people. You might carry a certain bad attitude or unprofessional attitude of not opening up and connecting with the people. Well, the most important point for a lot of us, not just for leaders but anybody who joins the organization, this is the basic medium to let you all believe that only through the initial interaction is where you can form trust and allow yourself to to make others believe that you're committed to the role as well, because each time you're communicating and you're talking and you're making that attempt to do so. Third slide of the day is tips for new leaders in the first 100 days. Well, there's a specific book, that's something I can suggest, and which actually helped me with the kind of different roles that I believe I have been following, and I'm doing fairly okay on there, is the first 90 days. The name of the book is First 90 Days. I would really recommend if you can have a hands on that book and understand what has been given out in terms of through a thorough guide. What are you supposed to do in the first 90 days? So, well, again, the biggest miss that people do during this first 90 days is where they do not connect with people. They're so heavily bounded to technology, assessing the work, knowing more about the job role, knowing more about what others do, and coming up with solution, working towards heavily on problem solving, conflict management and things like that. But people generally end up forgetting about the fact that it's equally important for us to all connect, know, and have that right attitude towards blending and making ourselves match with the team, the set of team that you're working with. So the first point is craft your story. So we all believe that we carry certain accomplishments that cannot be showcased on day one. Neither your resumes can showcase all your accomplishments that you have achieved, that you maybe have been given a lot of accolades for. Maybe you've been coming out as a very modest person and you really don't want to put it there on your resume. And again, cover letter has its own limitation. So you have to really craft your story as to what makes you bring to this leadership role. How committed are you? Certain experiences of in the past where you succeeded in this particular role, or certain failures which made you believe that you have to go back and relook into the entire model of being what leadership skills you have been displaying, and how you learned in the entire journey. I mean, at least I am interested to know more about this. So I'm sure likewise your team members would also be more inclined and more keen enough to know your stories, set of stories that you can showcase and show your commitment level to. The second point is select your duo. So well, over here it's a clear information that I'm laying out is select a backup of yours. So you have to start training, you have to start choosing set of people and then go through that selection process. And maybe after 100 days or during this 100 days regime is where you're supposed to really knock on one person and start training that person to be your backup in your absence, or maybe you would be delegating heavy work to this person in the future. Well, true leadership skill if I have to really, share my own reading and my own understanding about it, is all about effective delegation. The better you delegate, the better leader you are. The third point is know thy team, that is knowing in and out. An offline catch up can help you save lot of behavior challenges, emotional challenges. You don't really have to nurture anybody's ego or emotion if you know the person in and out, and that can only happen maybe during offline catch up, offline parties, or offline spending time with them. Moving further, help your team find its purpose. Well, we all work, we all maybe are into the process of in the completion of tasks, by going through certain situations of avoiding obstacles, working towards breaking the obstacles. But in the interim, we lack the purpose. Like life's purpose is important to all of us. Likewise, there has to be a goal within the team, and there has to be a purpose, a beautiful purpose that can be laid out in terms of creating that sensitization with respect to the each other's viewpoint and emotions. Working towards this particular purpose should be all our should be the ideology for all of us. Next is listen to understand. Like we don't have to listen to reply, but listen to understand. That happens like in almost all relationship. Likewise, you being a leader, all possibilities that we might miss out in terms of hearing the others out. We might not allow the others to give out the entire viewpoint. So listen to understand, and then you can respond. The last point is trust is the accelerator. So I forget all these points and I still am at only this. I can still lay the right foundation, and I can still achieve what I desire to achieve, that is a great leadership experience, not just for my own self, but also for the entire team. So trust is something we all have to work on, and that will take some time, but once built, is created forever in the future. And the most important commitment that I have to keep it to myself is not breaking that. Next slide. New leaders improve communication. Well, there's a reason that I really wanted to speak on this particular slide, for simple thing that communication can be overly done, or communication can be something under given. That is you can under communicate, that is not give out a lot of information about what your vision is, what are you trying to do for this particular task, what are you trying to make others believe in the purpose of the team's goal. So you have to really start communicating, and it has to be improved communication, that is open channel communication, and a communication where you are acknowledging others' viewpoint and something what you have not really applied earlier. For the new role, it has to be in absolutely new terms in terms of communicating, clearly declaring in the team meetings or in the discussion that you're open for any sort of communication. So if you want to be a little more specific, you can just use the word professional communication. This is something you can allow the person to not feel stagnated with their own experiences with the other team leaders or with the other supervisors in case they have underwent not so great experience. This might not limit them to open up and share with you, because you're clearly declaring that particular aspect out there. Next slide, review. So let's all believe in one saying by John Quincy, that is leadership. If a leader inspires you to do more, learn more, become more, and listen more, then you're an effective leader. So thank you for watching.